Yeah, that's Pastor Levi Lusko and his wife Jenny, and they are going to be here, like you heard them say, June 23rd. And so I'm going to take a moment and just invite all of you guys to come be a part of that because I don't know if you know anything about them. They pastor a multi-site church in Montana. And so, Montana's not really the mecca of church, and so we don't probably know a lot about them. But Pastor Levi has written a book called Through the Eyes of a Lion, which we have in Black Market. So if you're curious about that, you can stop by and pick it up. I have read that book, and it is probably one of the greatest books that I've ever read, just because it's a story about his family and some of the trials and stuff that they've walked through. And they're going to be here June 23rd to talk about some of that, and they've got a great night planned. And so that's another invitation for you guys. If you want to be here early for a special VIP Q&A deal with Pastor Levi and the Fresh Life Worship team, you can get here at 5:30 for that, and that will start at 5:45. And then the general admission doors open at 6:30, and the event will start at 7. And we'll have tickets out in the hallway. You can pick those up. I think they're $20 for the VIP ticket. And so if you guys want to be a part of that, this is another invitation. The video works pretty good, but I'll be here. Like, we're taking a bunch of students to camp that week, but I'm making a special trip back just to be a part of that, and then I'm going back to camp. So I'm taking a day or two out of camp to come be a part of this with Pastor Levi, and so I'm pretty fired up about it. And so I know most of you guys are probably wondering who I am, and so I am not Pastor Ivy Marsh, as many of you probably thought, because people do get us mixed up all the time, and I don't know how, but it happens. I promise you, I'm not being funny, but it really does happen. And so people come up to me all the time, and they're like, "Hey, are you the pastor at Epic?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not, but I am a pastor at Epic." But they assume that I'm Pastor IV. My name's actually Justin, and my wife Amy and we're the next gen pastors here, which means we oversee everything from birth all the way to high school. And so most of the time I'm speaking on a Wednesday to your students. Any students in the house tonight? I need some support. We got a few. Everybody else is at the beach and off doing summer things. But yeah, I get a chance to speak on Wednesdays and hang out with the students. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. And I made this joke earlier today, and some of the older crowd is going to get this, and you're going to love it. But Pastor Ivy and I have this really cool, funny relationship. How many of y'all remember the movie Twins? Anybody? Oh, good. Okay, a lot of y'all. You know Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger? So we have that kind of relationship going. But for the younger crowd, you're going to really appreciate this. It's more like The Rock and Kevin Hart. And so that's really kind of how we function. I really just kind of try to, stay real close and not get hit, right? And just stay by the big guy. And so that's kind of how we function. So if you guys will, they're out of town. They're actually on their way back from vacation, and so they'll be back in a couple of days. But if you don't mind, can we just honor them really quick? Because they may be logged on watching. I'm not real sure. But can we honor them for just their leadership and their pastoring? And so today we're going to start a new series called On the Rocks. And what this series is all about, it's not about how you like your whiskey or how you like your scotch or what kind of, how you like your martini, anything like that. But it is about how you intentionally live your life on purpose, with purpose. And so John 10:10, I'm going to start off with this. John 10:10 says, "I have come that they may have life and that they will have it to the full." And that's what Jesus said to us, and what he says each and every day is why he came to this planet. And so we value that statement so much here at Epic that it's actually what we built our vision on and why we do everything that we do here. And so our vision statement is very simple, very closely related. It's Epic Church exists to see people experience life and live it to the fullest. And that's why we exist. That's why we do what we do. And so you always have to have a why. And so young people, if you don't have a why yet, you need to find your why. And so every morning you wake up, everything you do, it chases your why, and you pursue your why, whatever it is. And so we have our why, and so we have to find ways to accomplish our why. And the ways that we do that are what we call core values. And so we have 7 core values here, 7 ways that we will, 7 filters that we run everything through to try to make sure that everybody's experiencing life to the fullest. And those 7 things that we're going to cover over the next 5 weeks are freedom, relationships, excellence, servanthood, honor, generosity, and power. Now, over the next 5 weeks, we're going to cover 5 of those. The first 5, we're not going to cover generosity or power. But I've got an illustration here I'm going to show you guys. But first, I feel like sometimes we throw the word core values around, and we're not really sure what that means. But if you're a leader of your home, and that's you men, if you're a leader of your business or you're in ministry or you lead anything whatsoever, you should have a set of core values that determine why you do what you do and how you do it and when you do it and all of that. And so core values are simply this. Core values are guiding principles that dictate behavior and action. Core values can help people know what is right from wrong. They can help people or families determine if they are on the right path and fulfilling their goals, and they create an unwavering and unchanging guide. And so that's very simply what core values are. And so no matter what you do, your core values always build the structure that determine like all the small things that you do. You got to have something to tie those to and a value to tie those to. And so I'm going to show you what I mean. And so I've got this little illustration here. And so we've got these two containers, and they both have rocks in them. This one has like fish tank rock, pebbles, and then this one's got some big rocks that I stole out of the Marsh's backyard. And so these containers kind of represent our lives. And so what we have is a lot of times we build our lives this way, where we fill it full of all the small things, all the tasks, all the hobbies, all, the little things that we do throughout the day. We're on our phones all the time, checking Instagram, social media, the way that we pursue things in life, just satisfaction and all these things, right? And so this is, kids' ball games, everything that you do, these are all the little things that make up your life. And so what we often do is we fill our lives up with these things, and then we decide, oh, you know what? I need to have some core values in my life. I need to have some kind of structure here as to why I'm doing this. And so then we try to start packing in core values, and you'll see that we quickly kind of just run out of room, and now your life is kind of overwhelming, and it's stressful because you can't fit everything in, and you're running yourself ragged, because you're pursuing a lot of things, and maybe they're not really in the right order. But what this series is about is getting your core values set, and whether that's freedom, relationships, excellence, servanthood, honor, generosity, power, like we have, and that's what we use at home, whether it's those 7 or you come up with your own, you place those first, and then you build a foundation on that, and then all the small things, all the little daily things in your life, you use those. And as you complete those things and you handle those things and you do every little thing that you do throughout the day, you'll see that it really does fit and you really can live a full life. And so I'm going to leave this little guy up here just so it can be a reminder for everybody and just so you can see. But this is what our series is all about, and that's why it's called On the Rocks. So you've got to get your big rocks in place so that your little rocks can support those values and support those core values. And so we're going to talk about 5 of these over the next 5 weeks, but today we're going to talk about one in particular, and it's probably my favorite, and it's servanthood. So everybody say serve. Serve. All right, so I've done this all day. I don't want to do it one more time just because I'm curious as to who's in the room. But if you've served on this campus in the last 2 weeks, I want you to stand up. And that's from a greeter, parking lot, kids areas, anything whatsoever. If you've served at all on the E-team. Okay, awesome. Now just stay up for just a second. So these are the people that serve, and there's a bunch in the back. And so these are the people that serve. And so they understand what servanthood really is. And I don't want you people that are not standing to feel like, oh, like I'm not part of this or whatever. I want you guys to really tune in today, because I feel like at the end of today, you can go, okay, the next time we do this, I will be standing up with that crowd. And so that's what today is all about, is servanthood. And so I just wanted to honor you guys and say thank you, because without you guys that are standing, Sundays wouldn't happen, Wednesdays at Shift wouldn't happen, Journey and Quest wouldn't happen. So just from the staff and from me personally, I appreciate you guys and I honor you, and I just wanted to say thank you. And so you guys can go ahead and have a seat. Yeah, you can give it up for them. All right, so if you got your Bibles with you, you can go ahead and open them up to Mark 6. That's where we're going to be. And when you crack that thing open, you're going to probably recognize a very familiar story right off the bat. You're probably going to see a heading, and it's the feeding of the 5,000. And so this is a very famous miracle, a very famous story in the Bible. And a lot of times we get focused on the miracle, and we don't really look at all the other pieces to it. And so today I want us to look at it through the lens of serving. And through the lens of servanthood. And so I'm going to read it. It'll be on the screens. I'm going to read all the way through it from 31 all the way to 44. And so just follow along. Just to quickly kind of set this up, just before this, Jesus and the disciples have been out doing like crazy work. They've been out doing all these miracles and performing all these miracles, and they've just been kind of running back and forth all over the place. And so it's been extremely busy. Everybody say busy. You guys, they're on the borderline of having like an overflowing, like not being able to close the lid kind of deal going, because they're just all over the place, right? And so that's kind of what's going on. And so Jesus says, come off by yourselves. Let's take a break and get a little rest. For there was constant coming and going. They didn't even have time to eat. So they got in the boat. They went off to a remote place by themselves. Someone saw them going, and the word got around. So from the surrounding towns, people went out on foot, running, and got there ahead of them. When Jesus arrived, he saw this huge crowd. At the sight of them, his heart broke. They were like sheep with no shepherd. He went right to work teaching them. When his disciples thought this had gone on long enough, it was now quite late in the day, and so they interrupted. Basically said, Jesus, look, we're way out here in the country. It's getting late. I need you to say a prayer, bless these people, and let's send them off so they can get some supper. But Jesus says, no, you do it. You fix them supper. You get them something to eat. And so they replied, are you serious? You want us to go spend a fortune on food for their supper? But he was quite serious. How many loaves of bread do you have? Take an inventory. Well, that didn't take long. 5, they said. We have 5 plus 2 fish. So Jesus got them all to sit down in groups of 50 or 100. They looked like a patchwork quilt of wildflowers spread out on the green grass. He took the 5 loaves, 2 fish, lifted his face to heaven in prayer, blessed, broke, and gave the bread to the disciples, and the disciples in turn gave it to the people. He did the same with the fish. They all ate their fill. The disciples gathered 12 baskets of leftovers, and more than 5,000 were at supper. Now, real quick, I know some of you guys may not know this, but at this time when they did like a count or attendance on who was there, they only counted the men. They would only count men, and so they counted 5,000 men. And so if you do any kind of research on this, you can go back and look it up. They estimate that somewhere between 10 and 15,000 people were there with wives and children and all of that. And so we're talking 10 to 15,000 people total, right? But so when they reference 5,000, that's just the men number. So the very first thing I want you to recognize is that we've got this place full of 10 to 15,000 people, and they're all hungry. And so we have a place full of hungry people. And the disciples, if you go back to the very beginning of what we just said, what we just read from the Bible, the disciples didn't get to eat either. They were so busy doing ministry that they didn't have time to slow down and eat, so they were hungry too. And so you have a bunch of people, right? Thousands of people that are physically, literally hungry, right? And then you have a bunch of people who are also spiritually hungry. They had seen all the miracles that Jesus was doing. They had heard about all the things that he was doing. And so they wanted whatever he had. They wanted to be a part of that because they had a real need that needed to be met. And in case you guys are kind of fuzzy on this, I was curious, so I looked it up. And hunger just means a lack of satisfaction or an unmet need. It doesn't mean that you need something to eat. It just means a lack of satisfaction or an unmet need. And so there was a bunch of hungry people. Everybody say hungry. And so this is what I thought was kind of funny, is that it says that Jesus, they left one side of the lake, and they started off across to be by themselves. And somebody saw them, and, okay, get the picture here. 10 to 15,000 people, men, women, kids, take off around the lake and beat them to the other side of the lake. And so when Jesus and the disciples pull up on the shore, now there's 10, 15,000 people over here waiting. And that's where it says that he just went right into teaching because he saw such a great need. He saw people that just needed to be healed. He saw people that were hungry. And so he just started teaching and went right to work. And so there's a lot of people that just had unmet needs. They were hungry. They had seen all that he'd been doing, and they knew, like, I don't know what this guy's all about, but I've seen what he's doing. I've heard about it, and I just want whatever that is. And some of you guys may not be aware of this, but we have middle school and high school. That's primarily kind of who I deal with. And we have middle school and high schoolers that show up here every Wednesday night for shift and every Sunday, and they're literally physically hungry. During the school year, we will have kids that show up here on a Sunday and they haven't eaten. Their last meal was Friday at school at lunch. And they just don't eat all weekend. They're not sure where their next meal is coming from until Monday when they get back to school. And that's a real thing that really happens here. And so I'm going to challenge you guys. You've probably seen this before, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit to kind of maybe change your perspective, is that when you see a bunch of kids at the snack bar stuffing their pockets full of crackers, that you don't jump to a conclusion as to they're just wanting to get extra crackers. It may be the only thing they eat for the rest of the weekend. And so that's just kind of something that really does happen here. And I want to make everybody aware of that because it's a real thing, and we do everything that we can to help. But sometimes you can only do so much, right? And so God knows what those kids do during the summer. If they're not getting a meal every, so often, I don't really know. And a lot of times they won't tell you. You just kind of have to force it on them and give them some food. But we have hungry people here every Wednesday. We have hungry people here every Sunday. But we also have people that are hungry spiritually, and they're hungry emotionally. And so we have people that are here today that are lonely, and you're struggling with loneliness, and all you want is some sort of satisfaction. You need to get a need met. And so that's why you find yourself, young people, in relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship, is because you're just trying to get a need met. You're just trying to fulfill a hunger that you have. And the young people in the room know this: you're thirsty, right? Y'all can laugh if you want to. You're thirsty. You're desperate. You just want to get a need met. And we've done a series about that, so they know all about that. And so when we have people that are really hungry, we have people that are lonely, and then we have people that have drug addictions or alcohol addictions. And it's the exact same thing. You're just looking to get a need met. You're just looking for some sort of satisfaction. But let me tell you this: there's not enough sex on the planet, there's not enough drugs on the planet, and there's not enough alcohol on the planet to truly fulfill the needs that you really have and to truly satisfy you. The only thing that you're going to find complete fullness of joy and satisfaction in is Jesus Christ. And so that's the only thing. And so if you think that you can find this satisfaction, which you can find a temporary satisfaction in many things, but the only true thing that you're going to ever purely be fully satisfied in is Jesus. And so that's why these people were sprinting around the lake. And that's just a cool image to me, to see 10, 15,000 people running around a lake because they put so much faith that this guy has something that they need. He can meet a need for them. And so the reality was that these people were hungry. And they just, all they were going off of was, we've heard this guy does some really cool things, and we want that, whatever that is. And so we get to the point where Jesus is teaching, the disciples interrupt him, and they say, hey, whoa, Jesus, man, you gotta pray, you gotta shut this thing down, we gotta send these people out of here because they need something to eat. And so this would be the equivalent of me, any given Sunday, walking up here and going, hey, Pastor Avi, this 6 o'clock crowd, we got to get them out of here. You got to pray, shut this thing down because they all need dinner, so we need to get them out of here pretty quick. Okay, that's kind of what happened. That's kind of what the scene looked like. And so they roll up and they're like, hey, get these people out of here. They forgot to eat breakfast. We need to go get them some food. And he says, no, I want you to give them something to eat. We don't need to send them away. You feed them. And so right there in that moment, Jesus is now inviting them, the disciples, into the miracle. He's not going to, he's got all the power that he could just, and sometimes we think that Jesus is a genie in a lamp and we can just make a couple wishes and everything's going to happen for us. But sometimes Jesus wants to bring us into the miracle rather than just perform the miracle for us. He wants you to be a part of what's going on. And so he invites them into the miracle. And so our common response, just like the disciples in this moment, was, I don't really have anything. I don't really have anything to offer to this situation. There's a lot of people here, and I don't have anything to feed all of you. So I don't really have anything to offer. Well, in the book of John, it tells us that there was a young boy, the same story in the book of John, there was a young boy who had a lunch packed. His mom had packed him a lunch. And so he was in the crowd that day, and he happened to have a lunch. And this is actually a lunchbox from when I was a kid. I got it at a Braves game. It's awesome. Love it. And so the little kid opens up his lunch, and he has 5 small loaves. And they weren't like grown man loaves of bread. They were really tiny loaves because he was, a young child. He's probably 10 or 12 years old, something like that. And so they were small loaves of bread. And so there was 5 of them. And so this is actually pretty close to correct or to accurate. And so he says, yeah, here, you can have these. Take them. Do what you got to do with them. And so there's a little boy that just says, you know what? I've got this lunch, but if you can do something with it, here you go. And our common response, what we tend to do is, well, I've got these 5 loaves, but there's 500 people in this room. I don't know if I can feed everybody with 5 loaves of bread. How are we going to break it up small enough? And so our common response is, the need is too great, and I don't have enough to do. I can't make a difference because I don't have enough. And so what we're going to look at, and I'll reference the little boy a little bit, but as the story goes on, it says that Jesus takes the bread and that he turns it into enough bread to feed 5,000 men, families, their families, and then there's bread left over. And so what Jesus is doing here is he's saying, hey, look, I've got this bread, I've got these 5 loaves that this little boy gave me, and so I'm gonna bless it, and I want you to take it and give it away. And so what he's doing here is he's actually giving the servants, the disciples, a front row seat for the miracle. And a lot of you people have had a front row seat for the miracle. How many of you guys have served or been a part of a freedom conference here? Anybody? Okay. You've had a front row seat for the miracle. You've seen that happen. How many of you guys, anybody in here that's ever been to Big Stuff with us as a leader? There's probably a few, okay? You guys have you've had a front row seat for the miracle. You've seen us baptize 20, 30 kids in the ocean, every summer. And so you've been a part of that. You've seen it. And so that's what he's doing. He's offering them a chance to have a front row seat for the miracle. And so Jesus is always willing to do miracles to the people, through the people that are willing to give up what they have. And so there's this little boy who says, hey, you can have it, take it all, take this, take my bread. And Jesus is willing to do a miracle through that. And so if you put whatever you have in the hands of Jesus, he's gonna bless it, and he's gonna do something radical with it every single time. And we like to believe that, and we can, it's a common thing. It's not foreign to us to hear that, and we hear it, and it's very cliche sometimes. But do you believe it? You hear it, and you go, yeah, I'll agree with that, but do you really believe it? And because here's why I ask that, because if you really believe it, will you stop coming to church and just consuming? And will you step in and be a part of the miracle and take an opportunity that maybe Jesus is trying to invite you in and let you serve people and be a part of the miracle that happens every single Sunday? And I know that's probably stepping on some of y'all's toes a little bit, but I don't feel like I would be teaching this the right way if I didn't throw that out there, because sometimes we just sit back and we wait and we just hope that it all works out, and that, Sundays are great and they've got all kinds of people in Journey and Quest and all that. And so you see the end product and you think it's amazing, but you don't really understand what the service can do. And so that's what we're going to talk about here is what it can actually do, because this lunch, the little boy's lunch, the 5 loaves, was intended for just the little boy. His mom packed it that day with intentions of feeding her son, and that was going to be his food for the whole day because he was going to be gone all day. And so she packed the 5 loaves just for her 10, 12-year-old son and nobody else. But it was never designed to feed thousands of people. And so that's what we have to remember, is that sometimes when Jesus wants to do a miracle, sometimes he's going to use a little and do something crazy, extraordinary with it. And there's always something supernatural that happens when somebody gives all that they have to Jesus and just says, hey, use this as you see fit. And that's what the little boy did. He just said, hey, I trust you. I want you to take this bread, use it, do whatever you need to do with it. And then Jesus does this crazy large miracle with it. And this is how Jesus uses it. And this may sound very, very familiar to some of you. Blessed, broken, given away. Blessed, broken, given away. Repeat that with me. Can you guys say that? Say blessed, broken, given away. All right, one more time. Blessed, broken, given away. Okay, so Jesus takes the boy's bread, he blesses it, he breaks it, he gives it away. And the Bible tells us that this small little lunch fed up to 15,000 people. And the way that he did this then is the same way that he multiplies, satisfies, and feeds people today. It's the exact same way, the exact same method, the exact same process. How many of you guys have been blessed by salvation? Anybody? A lot of people. Okay, so you know the feeling of, I'm not going to hell despite what my ex-girlfriend said, right? You know what that feels like. I'm not believing that because I'm not going. I've been saved, right? You get that, you know that feeling. And so we've been blessed, And when you think back on that moment, when you welcomed Jesus in and you said, yes, I know right now that I've been saved, like you can play that back in your mind and it almost kind of overwhelms you a little bit because you feel the blessing there. You know that you've been blessed. But what happens in the life of a believer is after you get blessed, you become broken. And Jesus will break you, not in a super negative way, but in a positive way. He'll break you to the things that are going on in the world. And so you'll begin to notice things around you that are a little bit different. Your perspective will change on things. For me personally, one of the things that like breaks me, and it broke me a long time ago, was seeing middle school and high schoolers come to church hungry, physically hungry, not getting to eat since Friday at lunchtime. And that broke me. And so for a long time, we fed kids and we sent backpack meals home with them for the weekend, hoping that their big brothers and their parents didn't take it away from them and so that they could actually eat it. And so we've done all kinds of things to try to help this and to try to buffer that a little bit. But that's something that really kind of broke me along the way. Another thing is this whole like crazy sex slave thing that we got going on now, and this human trafficking thing. It just really kind of breaks me because I have two daughters, and I can imagine coming home one day and seeing that my daughter has been abducted and sold into slavery. And so that's something that's really broken me along the way. And so I do whatever I can to help the organizations that fight that kind of stuff. And I can't go out and do it all myself, but I can at least, fund one of those organizations or jump in and spread some awareness. And so you find these things that break you as you go. And then once you've reached the point of being broken, Jesus can begin to give your life away. And one of the ways that he does this is with us on a Wednesday night at Shift is we have volunteers that serve at Shift. Any volunteers in here? Shift volunteers? Okay, we got a couple. I think there was a lot more this morning. But we've got a whole team of like 30, 35 volunteers that serve here every Wednesday night. And they serve your middle schoolers and high schoolers because there's something happened when they were in middle school and high school that absolutely broke them. Maybe they saw a bunch of fights or people being bullied, or maybe, when they got to high school, they lost a best friend, or they, divorce, or something crazy happened, and it absolutely breaks them. And so all they want to do is be with your middle schoolers and your high schoolers to help them through whatever situation they're going through. And so they've been broken, and so now they're giving their life away. And so they give their Wednesday nights away. They give their Sundays away. They give away a Thursday to go have ice cream with their group or something like that. And so they're giving themselves away. And so they've been blessed, they've been broken, and now they're giving themselves away. And we have people that lead life groups and teach life groups here at Epic. And this room's probably got, I don't know, there's a bunch of leaders in here. I can see them, a bunch of group leaders. And you guys lead and teach because at some point along the way, you were broken. And maybe it was you were broken by an old church and the way that they didn't really involve you into a relationship, or they didn't let you feel like part of the community. And so you were broken to that, and so you wanted to make sure that didn't happen here, and so you lead a group. Or maybe you were taught something that's theologically incorrect or that didn't line up with what you believed, and so you were broken to that, and you want to make sure that doesn't happen here. And so you study and you teach and you lead a life group that is theologically teaching the right way and correct all the way. And so we've got all these different kind of dynamics of people who have been blessed, broken, and now they're giving themselves away. And what this doesn't mean is that, and this is kind of where we fall in the trap a little bit sometimes, is that we go, okay, like it's Sunday today, so it's real easy to do it right and to go, okay, God, like give it away right here. Like you can have it all. Right? It's Sunday, so I'm giving it all to Jesus. But then Monday through Saturday, we want to keep part of it, and we don't want to necessarily give all that to Jesus. Or maybe it's that we go, hey, like my eternity, my salvation, I'll give that to Jesus. Like that's all good. But while I'm here on earth, I'm just going to live like hell and do it my way. Or maybe for some of us, it's that when we're in public and we have everybody looking at us, that we want to live one way. But when we're in private, when nobody's around, it's all about us, and Jesus is nowhere to be found. And so we have this weird dynamic thing going on, and so you can't just give part of it away and keep part of it for yourself. Jesus says, I want you to give it all to me. The little boy didn't say, well, I've got these 5 loaves, but I think I need to keep these 2, and you do what you want with these 3. And you can take these 3, but I'm going to keep these 2 for me. The little boy didn't say that. He didn't say, well, okay, I tell you what, I'll give you 4, but I'm going to keep this one just in case I get hungry and you run out of bread. I don't want you to run out, so I'm going to keep one just in case. No, he said, here, you take it all. You have it all. You do what you want to do with it. I trust you. I'm giving all that I have to you. And he gave up the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And then the story goes on to say that Jesus blesses it, he breaks it, and he gives it away. And this is a process that Jesus will continue to do, that God continues to do in the life of every believer. You're blessed, you're broken, and then you give yourself away to something, to a cause. And then once that kind of runs its course, then he blesses you again. And then he breaks you to something new and takes you to a new level. And then you give yourself away. And then you're blessed again and you're broken again. And you give yourself away. And it's just a cycle that just continues to happen. And so the question I'm going to ask all of you tonight is, where do you find yourself on this cycle? Blessed, broken, given away. Where are you at right now? And that's just a question for you to ask yourself. And so Jesus performs this miracle. He blesses the bread. He breaks it. He gives it away. And then the final thing I want to mention is this: more or less. More or less. And you'll notice this is the only one that has a question mark. It's the only point that has a question mark. And you're the only person that can answer this question. Is it more or less? And so we talked about the small lunchbox full of the five small loaves. And Jesus blesses them. He breaks them. He gives them away. 15,000 people were fed. 10 to 15,000 people. There's a bunch of bread left over. And how many disciples were there? How many disciples were there? Okay. How many baskets of bread were left? 12. Okay, again, there's a little boy with 5 loaves of bread. And he says, take it, use it how you need it, how you see fit. Take this and do whatever you need to do with it. And Jesus blesses it. He breaks it. He gives it away. And the story says that 15,000 people were fed. Each disciple walked away with a basket full of bread, got in the boat, and took it with them. Now remember the beginning of the story. Those same disciples were starving. They were hungry. That's why they left to begin with, was that they just needed to get away and get something to eat. And so what Jesus is trying to teach them in this moment is, are you going to choose more or are you going to choose less? And it's the same thing that we see in the little boy. The little boy could have easily had a scarcity mentality and said, you know what? Nobody else here has any food. I'm not giving this up. I'm keeping mine. You're not getting anything of mine. This is mine. You can't have it because my mom packed this for me today. I'm sorry that you don't have any food and that you're hungry, but here's my 5 loaves. I'm going to eat them and enjoy them. That's not what he said. He didn't have a scarcity mentality. He had an abundant mentality, and look at what happened. Look at the result. He chose more. He didn't choose less. He chose more. And so, as it applies to serving and servanthood, a lot of times in a room like this, over half of the people, and this happens a lot, people just serving on a Sunday even, they think, I'm going to go serve because those people need the service. Or those people, we think that we're serving only to the benefit of those who we are serving. But every time that we take what we have, everything that we have, and we give it to Jesus, and we serve in that way with your gifts and your talents and your time and your treasures, and you give it all to Jesus, you always always end up with more in the end. Now just think if the little boy would have just held on to those 5 loaves and not given it all to Jesus. And so when you put everything that you have in the hands of Jesus, you're always going to walk away with more. The disciples learned that lesson. They didn't have anything. They were starving. They wanted Jesus to shut it down so they could go get some food. And he taught them a lesson. He said, no, you're going to feed them. But he did not say, you're going to feed them because at the end of this, we're going to have a ton of food left over. Okay? And so you can't serve with the hopes of this in mind and with I hope I get something at the end. You just serve, and you just serve because you just serve. But you're always going to walk away with more. And so when we say things like this, we say things all the time like, you're never more like Jesus than when you're serving. We say that all the time, and so you've probably heard that before. It's very true. You've probably heard us say, you need to take your next step and get on the E-team. Or you need to take your next step and go to partnership or ownership or whatever that next step is for you. You need to be serving. And so oftentimes people will hear that and they think, oh man, they just want my time, or they just want something from me, right? And that's kind of our natural, jaded perspective is, oh, they just want something from me. But in this moment, I'm telling you, it's not that we want something from you. It's that we want something for you. Because I'm standing on this stage telling you that I've served in ministry now for a quarter of my life, and I can stand here right now and 100% honestly tell you that my life is more full and that I have abundantly more than what I did before. Because I took the very little or nothing that I had and I just said, hey, Jesus, use it. I don't know, just use it. Take it. It's fine. Use it. I trust you. And I'm not saying that my life is all perfect and I've got it all together, but I have abundantly more than what I used to have because I just served. And my family just serves, and we just serve because we know that you're never more like Jesus than when you serve. And we also know that you're always going to benefit from it. I'm sure there's a handful of stories in this room of somebody who just simply held the door for somebody coming in on a Sunday or a Wednesday or whenever. You simply held the door for somebody, and they said something or came through with a great attitude, and you felt blessed by it. And you're the one that served them. You opened the door for them, but you got blessed. And you walked away feeling, oh, wow, that was awesome. And all I did was hold the door. There's hundreds of stories like that each and every Sunday of people just serving and walking away, getting more out of it and feeling an abundant overflow in their life. And so it's not that we want anything from you. It's just that we want, just like God wants, we want something for you. And he wants abundance for your life. He wants you to have a more mentality. He wants you to have more, not less. And so that's a decision that we have to make. Are we going to choose more or are we going to choose less? And so very, very simply and practically, everybody in this room has a next step. Some of us it's one thing, some of us it's a different thing, but everybody's step is a little bit different. And we're all about you're taking your next step here at Epic. And so today we had partnership at 1:30. And so for you guys at 6 o'clock, you don't have that option today. But it happens on the first Sunday of every month at 1:30. And so that's, if you've never been to partnership and you want to get in there and start serving and you want to let God use everything that you have and all your gifts and talents, because your gifts and your talents are not my gifts and my talents. And I can't do what you can do. My gifts and my talents are way different than what yours are. And God needs my gifts and my talents, but he also needs your gifts and your talents. And so don't sit back thinking, oh, you've got it covered in Journey, or you've got it covered at the front door, or the cafe looks like it's pretty covered up. Believe it or not, we always need people to pour coffee. And so let your gifts and talents be used. Give them to God, give them to Jesus, and say, Jesus, look, I don't really know where this is going to go, but here's what I can do. Here's my gifts. Here's my talents. Use them. I trust you. Use me. And once you do that, once you give yourself to Jesus and you say, just use me, you're going to walk away with more every single time. And you're going to walk away feeling blessed and fulfilled and truly satisfied. There will be no more hunger. There will be no more lustful desires or anything like that. You're not going to struggle with that loneliness thing anymore, because over time, He's going to bless you. He's going to break you. He's going to give you away. He's going to bless you. He's going to break you. He's going to give you away. And in the end, you're going to walk away living a life to the absolute fullest. And that's the very reason that Jesus came. And so here's what I want to do. I want to pray for everybody. And I'm just going to pray over the whole group tonight as a family. And here's what I want you to be thinking about is, what is your next step? Because everybody has one. Everybody has a next step, whatever it is. You have a next step on your journey. And so for you, if it's just simply serving, I want you to mark on your calendar the first Sunday of the next month, and I want you to be here at 1:30, and I want you to go through partnership. Maybe you've been through partnership, and your next step is ownership. I want you to be paying attention and get involved and figure out when the next ownership class is, because it doesn't happen on a regular basis. And so I want you to do what you have to do and send an email, get some information, and get involved in that, and get to serving. Maybe you serve now as a greeter, but you know that you're called to serve on a higher level. So maybe you need to go through ownership and serve in Journey or in Quest and actually teach or lead. So some of you, that's your next step, is just serving. Some of you, your next step is just to start a relationship with Jesus. And that's your next step. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody's at a different place on the journey. But I never want to leave and not give you that opportunity to start that relationship. And so we're not going to do like a huge altar call kind of thing and try to bring everybody down front or anything like that. I'm just really practical, really simple, and I'm going to put the ball in your court. And so here's what I want you to do. I'm not even going to make you raise your hand. Here's what I'm going to say. If you're here and you know, I need to begin a relationship with Jesus today, I need to be saved, I need to welcome Him into my heart as my King, my leader, my forgiver, my Savior, however that registers in your mind, you need to be saved. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get up and walk out of this room as soon as we're done, and I want you to go to next steps, and I just want you to tell somebody. And that's all. I just want you to go to the next steps area and say, hey, look, I feel like I need to know Jesus today. Very, very simple, very practical, but it's on you. And there will be somebody there that will celebrate with you, and they will pray with you, and they will walk you through what that even means and what it looks like. And they will make you feel very, very special in the process. And so those are some next steps that some of you may have today. And if you're not sure what your next step is, that's what that whole area out there is for. Next steps. Go find out how you can, what is your next step? Are you supposed to be in a life group? Are you supposed to be serving? Whatever it is for you, I don't know. But that's what today is all about, is find out how you can serve in some way, some fashion. Because the next time I come up here and say, hey, if you've served within the last 2 weeks, I want you just to stand up to your feet. I would love to see everybody in the room stand up together, because we're all serving as one family. Because we all know that when we pour ourselves out and we give ourselves to Jesus, that we're going to walk away with more in the end. And so if you will, just bow your heads. I'm going to pray real quick, and then Amy's going to come up and give you guys some last-minute details. God, we thank you for today. God, I thank you for this message and what it means to us. God, I thank you for allowing us to serve you, God, to be your children, to just be a part of your family. And God, we thank you right now for our salvation. God, we thank you for each and every moment that we get to serve you. God, we also thank you for every moment that we get to serve each other and serve people that we don't even know. And so, God, right now, I just specifically pray over everybody in this room tonight, that as they walk through what their next step looks like and how they can jump in and be serving, God, I just pray that you will always remind us of this visual of how a little boy just gave everything that he had, and it was blessed, broken, and given away. And in the end, people walked away with more than what they started with. God, I thank you for satisfying our hunger. And I thank you for being a true source of energy and nutrition and life, not just physically but spiritually. And so, God, I thank you for just the miracle that you performed back in this story. But God, I thank you for the miracles that you perform each and every day in our lives. And so, God, we thank you for that today. We honor you. We love you. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. And everybody said, amen.